Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give folks a few minutes to join us. So just hang tight. Hopefully it's not too awkward with the silence. In retrospect, should have put some music on here, but hang tight for a minute. We'll let people join us. Hey, everyone. Welcome. We're going to give everyone like one more minute and then we'll jump into this. I'm excited to have everyone here. Sweet. All right. Well, in the spirit of trying to be punctual, we'll jump right in, and we are going to record this just so everyone's aware. We will likely put it up on the Start Engine landing page that we have, so that way folks who were unable to join us can get the same information that you all are able to receive. So thank you for joining us. My name is Alicia. I'm on the brand marketing team here at Purity, and I'm thrilled to be able to sort of MC this event with Andrew Salisbury, our founder and CEO. What we're hoping is that everybody here can get a little bit of a glimpse under the curtain around what Purity is doing, the mission behind Purity Coffee, and what the future looks like for the company. So we thought it would be fun as part of this round of crowdfunding to kind of offer up Andrew Salisbury as in the flesh and live here on this webinar, so that way anybody who has questions kind of about what we're up to and what the future looks like, you have the opportunity to ask it. So a quick bit of housekeeping is that if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat feature, which is that little chat box in the bottom right hand of the corner. And then we'll get to them at the end. Otherwise, hold on to your questions until the questions slide at the end of this presentation, and then feel free to use that little hand emoji and you can ask them, and I'll kind of tag you in, if you will, and Andrew can answer the questions live. But we're thrilled to have you here. We appreciate everybody taking time during their lunch break or this afternoon to join us. And without further ado, I'll pass the mic over to Andrew Salisbury to really just tell us what's going on, and like I said, talk to us a little bit about the mission of Purity and what the future looks like. So Andrew, you got this. Oh, hold on. I have to unmute you. That's my fault. Let me make sure you're unmuted. All right, you should be good. Can you unmute yourself? Lovely. Sorry about that.
No
That's
problem.
probably pretty important to have you be able to speak. All right.
Great. I just want to sort of give it, first of all, start off with a thank you for everybody, for our Purity customers, and also for the first-time investors. We're very excited about this new chapter. This is the first time that we've gone for outside funding, which is, a really interesting new direction for the company. The way that this should flow is that for about 15 to 20 minutes, I just want to give an overview of the history of Purity in sort of various stages. The first stage is why we started this business. The second one is the category, which I think that coffee is about to go through, which is the category of coffee and health, and the things that we do that make the difference. What things that we focus on, what things we try to maximize, and what things we avoid. And at the same time, give you the fundamentals of the business and just, give you an overview of really what's working in terms of Purity as a business, and then leave about 10 minutes to field any questions or any questions you may have. So, okay, let's go to the first slide. So, the start of Purity was very interesting. My background isn't in coffee. My background has been in telecommunications. I started a business in Latin America, and I sold that business, and we were in 5 countries, and so it couldn't be more different than selling bags of coffee. But what happened in the interim is once we sold the company, my wife and daughter and I took about a year off, and we traveled. And in that sort of travel, my wife started experiencing some health issues. It was very low energy. She had difficulty getting out of bed in the morning. So we tried everything. I mean, just in change of supplements and also focusing on our diet, making sure she was getting enough sleep, that sort of thing. And one of the things that I noticed that seemed to be a bone of contention was that my wife was drinking a lot of coffee. Now, I'm an English tea drinker, and I never really drank coffee up until this point. Occasionally, I'd have a cup of coffee, but my wife was drinking a lot of coffee, and my argument with her was, it's sort of like one foot on the accelerator, one foot on the brake, that you're just doing everything to make your body do something that it really wasn't prepared to do. So the argument sort of persisted about, whether coffee was good or bad for you. So I started going into a deep dive on the health benefits of coffee. And at the time, there was 2 very different groups of people. There was those people who were saying, I really want to give up coffee for New Year's resolution. I want to cut down on my caffeine intake. And there was other people who were focused on the health benefits of coffee, that it was the #1 source of antioxidants in the American diet. So really out of curiosity initially, I was lucky enough to meet 2 professors at the Institute of Coffee Studies in Vanderbilt. And I took them out to dinner, and my goal was, just tell me once and for all, is coffee good for you or bad for you? And what was interesting is they gave me a long shopping list of the health benefits of coffee. Everything from, it's the #1 source of antioxidants in the American diet. It reduces your risk of liver disease, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, 6 forms of cancer. And for me, that was sort of shocking news. I mean, I just couldn't understand how something that Americans drink, 164 million Americans will drink coffee this morning. I couldn't understand why, if coffee was so good for you, people weren't making every decision based on health. And so my next question with these professors is, well, okay, great. What coffee does my wife buy? Like, where do I get coffee that fits this criteria? And what was difficult is they could give me a long list of things that I need to maximize if I cared about health, but they couldn't tell me one company that was focused on making every decision based on health. So this led me to an introduction to Professor Adriana Ferrar from the University of Brazil, and she's one of the leading scientists in the world on the health benefits of coffee. And originally we started with, let's say, a 2-month consulting project, stretched to about 18 months, and then the focus was, what would happen if you could make every decision you wanted based on health and there was no compromise to cost, no compromise to flavor? So if this coffee was $200 a pound and tasted like ditch water at the end, at least we knew that we were making every decision based on health. So that's what we did. We looked at, everything from the varietal of coffee, for the soil conditions of the coffee, how the coffee is grown and processed, how it's packaged, stored, and then shipped eventually to the customer. So we looked at all of these decisions, and in about end of 2016, we launched with our first bag of coffee, which was where we made every decision based on health, and we wanted to see if we could test this with the market. So that led us to sort of like the mission, as Alicia will say, is we're focused on probably a different perspective. It's a new lens. We're focused on the fact that coffee is incredibly good for you. It can be very high in antioxidants, but no one company is making every decision based on health. And so the opportunity is, what if we could make every decision based on health, and how would it improve the quality of coffee for health? And then how do we make this part of the sort of daily ritual with coffee? And in fact, it's almost like, what's the difference that makes the difference? Because one of the questions we had in the early stages is, if coffee is so good for you, could we do anything that would impact the health benefits of the coffee? So that sort of led us down that journey on the difference. So the main categories of this. So some of our decisions were very easy decisions. So, organic rather than coffee that's treated with pesticides. Nobody was arguing that they should have coffee treated with pesticides if you care about health. So there was no argument in that direction. So that was a very easy decision. We want to go organic, mold-free, mycotoxin-free, free of contaminants like heavy metal, free of primary defects. All of these things were basic table stakes. And what we look at as a company is that some of these decisions are easy to make and easy to implement, but a lot of companies don't focus on even the bare minimum, even the table stakes of coffee. So these is what we consider the sort of minimum you should require in any of your coffees. Because I'll give you an example: the mold mycotoxin free. It costs us around $250 to test a whole container of coffee that is mycotoxin free. It's very easy. I mean, it's every coffee company should be doing this, and you should require this of every coffee that you drink. But unfortunately, it is not the standard. But this is what we call the sort of low bar. Great. The second level is, okay, what's the difference that makes the difference? What are the things that we want to focus on that maximizes the health benefits of coffee? So in the early days, I was told, look, the health benefits of coffee doesn't come from avoiding the bad stuff. It comes from maximizing the good stuff. So the first thing we did is we looked at how do you maximize the antioxidants in coffee, and that comes from both sourcing the coffee, making sure that we're testing the coffee when it's green, and maximizing the antioxidants in the coffee, but then also roasting it in a way that we don't create any of the negative compounds, and we keep most of the positive compounds that we care about inside the coffee. So one of the things that took us 2 or 3 months to work on was designing the roast curve for the coffee. So without getting into too many details, when you take green coffee and you roast it to make it brown, most coffee companies, their job is to take green coffee and turn it brown and make it taste good. Our focus is on roasting the coffee so that we maximize the antioxidants in the coffee. And in the early stages of roasting, you have a thing called acrylamide, which is created. And in the later stage of roasting, you have polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. And along the way of roasting the coffee, you roast away the antioxidants. So the darker the coffee is, the less antioxidants the coffee has for your health. So we designed a roast curve where we minimized any acrylamide. In fact, the roasting technique that we use minimizes acrylamide, make sure that no PAHs are produced in the coffee, and then we maximize the antioxidants. The other sort of challenge for us is that there was no way to really know whether a coffee was high in antioxidants or absence of the bad stuff without lab testing. So right at the beginning, we lab tested all of our coffee. So all the way through the process, from sourcing our coffee to roasting our coffee, we lab test, and we make sure that the coffee has those compounds that we care about and none of the negative compounds. The one stage that we care about a lot is that one fast path was specialty coffee. So specialty coffee is a way of looking at coffee so that you don't have any what's called primary defects. And the primary defects are things like chipped beans and broken beans. They're things like obvious signs of insect damage. They're things like mold and issues with that coffee. So we avoid primary defects by making sure we get the highest grade of coffee available. Highest grade, at least until healthy coffee, into this new category that we're about to start, is specialty grade. And then we source from regenerative biodynamic farms. And the reason for that, and this is sort of like this is a longer story, we started to notice when we lab tested coffees from around the world that the coffee that was best for your health, which was higher in antioxidants, happened to be grown in a way that had certain labels. It had Demeter, it had hand-picked, hand-selected, shade-grown, biodynamic. So there were certain labels on that coffee that we realized that is likely to be higher in antioxidants because it's grown in a way that's good for the environment and sequesters carbon from the atmosphere into the soil, and then also food safety standards. You'd be surprised, a lot of coffee companies don't even follow basic food safety. And some of the reasons why some of these basic problems occur in coffee is because we're not paying enough attention on the farm level to maximize the coffee for the planet and also for antioxidants. Okay, great. So why do I think this is a new category of coffee? There's three main reasons why people buy coffee today. The first reason is cost. So people buy coffee because they see coffee as a sort of an injection system for caffeine. So it's gas station coffee, it's soluble coffee. It's really just, price is the biggest driver. The second sort of motivation that people have when they buy coffee is the convenience factor. And that can be everything from, going to your local sort of like Pete's or Starbucks or local coffee roaster. It could be K-Cups, it could be Nespresso pods. It could be anything that makes it more convenient for you to have high quality coffee at home. And the third reason that people would buy coffee, and this is more recent, is the taste of the coffee. So there's a big movement with specialty coffee around the sort of the tasting notes of the coffee, and that people can taste certain compounds in the coffee or certain flavonoids in the coffee. And they buy coffee very much like wine. They buy coffee for the taste of that product. And the thing that I've been focusing on for now, 7, 8 years, is that if people knew what I knew about the health benefits of coffee, there would be a fourth main reason to buy coffee, and that would be the health benefits of coffee. And so focusing on every decision based on health, I think, is a very important new category for coffee and health. So why is this important? So, the first thing to mention is this whole thing about 164 million Americans will get up this morning and drink a cup of coffee. This is something that everybody does, and we joke that it's the supplement that you'll never forget to take. So where we see Purity being on the intersection of the $98 billion US coffee industry and the $1.2 trillion health industry. Okay, great. So this part is sort of like, I want to give you a sort of an overview of why I feel like the growth of Purity is a great validation that this is the new category and a new direction for coffee. So since we started, we launched in 2016. We have over 42,000 reviews with an average star rating of 4.9. I think it's actually, we just crested 43,000 today, 41,000 when we first did the crowdfunding. So, I mean, these reviews are coming in literally 15, 20 reviews a day sort of thing. The second thing is our returning customer rate. It's very high. 50% of our customers come back for a second time to buy coffee. And so our customers are very sticky to us. In other words, not only does the coffee taste great, but it feels different in your body. And that's something which is represented just by, the amount of customers that are returning. The third factor is 30,000 subscribers. Not all of our coffee customers are subscribers. So a lot of people order a la carte, they order a bag of coffee, but also when the final step of the road where they want to guarantee that they're going to have high quality coffee, they become a subscriber, and we have 30,000 active subscribers, over $50 million in lifetime revenue, and a consistent year-over-year growth of 93%. Okay, and this is just some of the testimonials. We talked about how we would present this, and I think what I'd like to encourage is go to our sites, go on the testimonial tab, and just look at random at any one of the 43,000 testimonials. Look at 2016. Look at a year. Look at you can search this by various sort of like sort of areas that coffee can help with. But just go on our site and read some of the testimonials and read what the customers say about our coffee, because I actually think that's where the rubber meets the road. If ultimately all the things that we do doesn't actually result in a coffee that people love and it feels different in their body, then we've sort of fallen at the last hurdle, and we haven't. I mean, this 41,000 testimonials is very encouraging. Okay, great. Another sort of validation for us as a company is that just recently we were told that we were in Inc. 5000 for the 4th time in a row. And for those of you that are not familiar, Inc. 5000 is a magazine that basically tracks the fastest growth private companies in the US, and basically is trying to measure your growth from your first year to your 3rd year and a consistent year after that. what's really impressive is that no single coffee company has been featured or is presently featured 4 or more times in Inc. 5000. So that makes basically we're the fastest growth coffee company in the US as tracked by Inc. 5000, which is huge validation. I mean, companies can be a little bit of a flash in the pan. They can have 1 year or a second year, but consistent growth year over year is very encouraging. Okay, next. So this is sort of an interesting question. Why crowdfunding and not traditional funding? So, we've been approached by venture capital and private equity and groups that would typically fund this sort of company in the early stage. But we've been very concerned about misalignments. We've been really concerned that we would work with somebody who has a different sort of investment strategy than us, and their goal would be to build a company up and sell it. That's not really our goal. Our goal is that we see this as a very strong, interesting category, and we want to put all of our heft behind this. And so while we did want to put more fuel to the fire, we want to raise money to do some initiatives, we felt like crowdfunding was a great way to do that. Crowdfunding, a lot of you may have heard of through, it's sort of gift crowdfunding. So typically what happened in the past with certain sort of channels is you would invest in a company who has an idea for a product, and you in turn would be the first person to get that particular product. That is not this. This is equity crowdfunding, and this is the ability for us to raise money from our customers and the people who are real sort of like fans in the direction that we're going in, so that we can give them equity in the company, be treated as a shareholder in the company with the growth and share in the success of the company. Okay, great. Where does your investment go? So 4 main categories of investment. The first one is we're going to centralize our shipping. And so what we're doing today is we roast our coffee and then we ship it from the same location, the same 2 locations. We intend to centralize it with a third-party 3PL. And what that does for our customers is it increases the ability for us to send coffee very quickly to our customers. It increases our footprint of the coffee, and at the same time, it increases our margin. The second area that we're going to invest in is what we call the Cool Farm Initiative. And I think Alicia will drop a link to a video in the chats or at least follow up with this video that talks about this initiative. What we're trying to do is that a lot of people are not buying coffee for health. And if they're not buying coffee for health, farmers aren't encouraged to farm coffee for health. So there's certain things that we know that we can do on a farm level that improves the quality of coffee for health, for the chlorogenic acids in the coffee, the trigonylene, the cafestol, the cariol, all of the compounds we care about, implement food safety standards. But what this allows us to do on the Cool Farm Initiative is to give a premium for coffee that is farmed in a way that's good for the environment and also good for health. And that's why we believe it's a very new category, because we're asking our coffee farmers to farm in a way which is superior to the way that they've been asked to farm in the past. The third category that we're working on is a grocery expansion. Again, it's sort of access to our coffee. We're actually, I think next week, we're going into Erewhon in California, and there are 10 locations, which is our first effort into grocery. So it's really expanding quickly, although we're going to hold that back a little bit just to make sure that we're going into the right locations with the right access. And then the last area is the new product innovation, and that's probably where I'm most excited. Because people haven't typically been buying coffee based on health, they haven't been looking at all the things that can be done to improve the quality of coffee for health. So that could be the cultivar of coffee, that could be the soil conditions, that could be the altitude, the way the coffee is processed, and definitely the way the coffee is roasted and the delivery system of the coffee. So it allows us to experiment even further in terms of health benefits, which most coffee companies are not encouraged to do, because their job is to take green coffee and turn it brown and make it taste good. So we're in a very different focus. Alicia? Okay. And so just as a recap, I mean, I would say, as a recap on this, this is a new category of coffee. It's a new lens. It's food as medicine. Coffee should be treated as a health food. It's incredibly good for your health. It's incredibly good for longevity. It's one of the most studied foods on the planet. So there's over 20,000 studies on coffee and health, peer-reviewed studies that show all of the health benefits in terms of liver, type 2 diabetes, 6 forms of cancer, but no one company is making every decision based on health. And our focus is We want to maximize the good stuff in coffee, maximize the positive compounds, minimize any of the negative compounds in coffee, and at the same time get a great tasting coffee for our consumers. So with that, I will leave it open to questions. I know there was a drinking from a fire hose, but
good. No, that was great, Andrew. We really appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of you, especially those that are interested in investing, have questions. So I would encourage you either to put them in the chat box, like we received a few already, or just wave that little hand, and then I'll kind of call on you. If you have questions post-event and post-webinar, please put them on the Start Engine landing page. Andrew can answer them directly there, and I'm sure it's beneficial for others who also have similar questions. So we'll start with one that was just asked here by George, and then again, if there's more questions, just raise that hand or put them in the chat box. So George asked, aside from the antioxidants, how are you able to determine the other health benefits for the roast? For example, if there's a dark roast, is there a dark roast for digestive health, medium roast for overall health, light roast for liver vitality?
Yeah, so it's a good question. There's certain compounds that we know are good for you, and there's certain compounds we know that are bad for you. So in the case of specific compounds inside of coffee, there's literally thousands of compounds that are created and destroyed in the roast curve. So consciousness about how we roast the coffee, the temperature, the time, makes a big difference in terms of the coffee. So you have to start with the right raw material, but you have to roast in a way that maximizes the health benefits. So most coffee companies don't lab test their coffee, so they have no idea. In fact, I don't think I know any coffee company that lab tests their coffee for these compounds. If they don't know what compounds they want in the coffee, they can't maximize it. So in the case, and this is a good point when you talk about darker roasted coffee and lighter roasted coffee, in a lighter roasted coffee, you have more chlorogenic acids, which are the antioxidants. So that's very good for our overall anti-inflammation and health. In a darker roasted coffee, you roast away the antioxidants, but what's interesting is you create chlorogenic lactones, which are very good for gut health and brain barrier. It is good for dementia, Alzheimer's, and that sort of thing in terms of like what science tells us about the health benefits of these particular compounds. So what we do is we follow the science and we roast in a way to maximize the compounds that science tells us are good for certain ailments.
Awesome. Another question from George was, do you plan on releasing more single origin coffees?
Yeah, we do. It's sort of like our strategy is that we want to highlight the farms that are doing a great job. So one example would be 2.5 years ago, we invested in Monte Bonito Farms. That was the first investment we made on a farm level. And the reason we did that is because we wanted to highlight the journey from industrial farming all the way to regenerative organic agriculture. So we haven't released that coffee in 2.5, 3 years. That has been something that we've been producing, but we've been keeping in-house and selling to third parties until it could adhere to all of our standards of a purity coffee. And so that's a great opportunity for us to highlight a particular story or a particular farm. So you might see from time to time, we highlight particular farms that are doing a great job because we want to highlight just, we need to find a way to encourage farmers to farm in a way that's good for the environment and good for health. And so highlighting the farmer is a great way of doing that.
Cool. Andrew, can you speak a little bit more about competitors? Debbie asked what our competitors are doing and what we're doing differently.
Yeah, look, I really believe this is going to be a category that people are going to focus on coffee for health as a category. So, but it's more than just avoiding the bad stuff. What I hope is there's going to be a lot of people in this space, a lot of people doing a credible job. And the more we can move in that direction, the better. But something being healthy is not the absence of bad stuff, it's the presence of good stuff. So maximizing the good stuff is important. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people are focused on the low bar, the easy sort of thing to work on, which is minimizing the bad stuff in coffee. So I hope the direction will be, especially as consumers, we start to ask the question, if coffee is so good for you, why is it good for you? Like, what are the positive compounds and how many of those positive compounds do you have in your coffee? So the more diligent people are as consumers, I think the more a category this will become.
Great. We are going to take 2 more quick questions here, and then anything we don't address in the comments here, we will make sure to post about as an update on the Start Engine landing page. So one question we'll take and we'll try to be as brief as possible. This is a loaded question, is about climate change. And it is what is being done to ensure that we're addressing and mitigating climate risks related to farms and coffee growing.
A lot of things. I think it's a really important category. It's a really important question. So the World Health Organization predicts there will be 50% less Arabica coffee by 2050. So that means there will be less production of really high quality coffee. And the reason for that is climate change. 85% of all farmers believe in climate change. They understand the impact because they see it day in and day out. So what we're trying to do is trying to create a model that is not only good coffee for health, but good coffee for the environment. And so what we're doing is we're using micro-lending, and we're encouraging our farmers by giving them a premium price to farm in a way that's good for the environment. What does that mean specifically? It means things like biochar. Biochar is this fantastic technology that basically sequesters carbon, puts it down in the earth where it belongs. It's great for yields of coffee. It's great in terms of nutrient uptick of coffee. So it has this sort of like real incentive that is good for the plant, it's good for coffee consumption, but it's good for the environment. All of our farms work with biodigesters. That means that instead of the fruit rotting and creating methane, which is about 80 times more impactful than normal greenhouse gases, we sequester the carbon by using biodigesters. So the rotting takes place inside of biodigesters and is used to fuel the farm. So there's a lot of initiatives that we're focused on, including carbon credits and that sort of thing. But what we're trying to do is we call it a reverse franchise model. And what I mean by that is most franchises, you pay money to be a part of the franchise. What we try to do is encourage the farmers to move up in standards, and then we agree to buy all of their coffee as a commitment at a higher price. And so that's the model. It's the reverse franchises that we actually invest in our farms to move them to a higher level.
Awesome. Okay, and then the last question we'll take here is, as you explore your release into grocery stores, how are you going to scale without compromising quality and integrity of what you believe in?
I mean, I think the how part is just that we're not going to do it. I mean, we are a mission-driven company. We're very focused on the health benefits of coffee. We won't do anything that in any way could sort of sacrifice our core principles as a company. Grocery doesn't do that. The reason it doesn't do that at a certain level is because all of our bags are nitrogen flushed. Now, what that means is it's an inert gas. Because freshness is important in your coffee, the bags are nitrogen flushed, and so the staling only begins when you open the bag. So the bag can be on a short store shelf, and it'll still be fresh until the day you open it, and then you're going to see about a 15 to 21 day staling that happens.
Awesome. Okay, I know we're at time, and I'm trying to be mindful of that. Like I said, I have all these questions saved here, so we will try to get to all of them in the comments. And yeah, please follow us on social, and so you can stay in the loop on what we're up to and some of the new products we're launching. And we will produce some how-to videos on how to brew. So we hear you, and we're excited to have you all as part of this community, and we really appreciate you joining us today.
Perfect. Thanks,
everyone. Take care.
Bye.
Who do you